What's up and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. Although, following on from Sunday's hugely disappointing 1-1 draw against Fulham, the mood amongst the fans has definitely taken a downward turn. And can you blame us? It does look like we've blown a chance of winning the title for a third straight season. I know it's not done yet, but that's what it feels like. And so could the January transfer window provide us a fillip, a tonic for our bitter gin? Is there a chance that we could go out there and sign one or two or maybe three players that could make a massive difference? Well, I'm looking through the big transfer stories of today and evaluating them for likelihood, but particularly focusing on striker because, as everyone knows, Arsenal are short a striker. I didn't necessarily feel like this last year, but I think with Eddie Nketiah being sold at the moment, you know, it's true to say that since Arteta joined Arsenal as manager, he has signed only two strikers. The first was Gabby Jesus, who everybody at the time told us wasn't prolific enough to be our main striker. And, well, it kind of looks like they were right now, doesn't it? The other is Kai Havertz, who, let's face it, has played as much time in midfield as he has up front. Doesn't look like a natural centre-forward, but I've definitely warmed to him, and I think most of us have. But is he prolific enough? And apart from anything, if he's not having a good game, in the way that he didn't against Fulham, what are the options off the bench? We desperately need to have other attacking options, particularly because Raheem Sterling doesn't seem to have the confidence of Arteta, and that only ever ends up one way. So I'm looking today to see if any of these stories could possibly be true and could possibly make the difference and restore our chance of winning the title, which is not mathematically gone, by the way, but like I said earlier, it does feel sour. I'm going to start, though, with one that is not likely to cheer anybody up, and that is the Sun leading with the story that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is available for transfer and that Arsenal are considering a £20 million bid. Now, his contract comes up at the end of the season, and he will not be renewing there. I don't know if it's his choice or Everton's choice, but ultimately he will be leaving. Now, if you believe the Sun, and if you do, you need your bumps felt anyway. They're saying clubs like AC Milan are interested in him. West Ham and Newcastle could take a look at him. But the idea that Arsenal fans would be happy if we went out and signed a player who scored 16 times in the last 81 performances. I mean, he's less prolific than Gabby Jesus. If the choice is Gabby Jesus or Dominic Calvert-Lewin, frankly, if the choice was Mika Bierith, who we sold to Sturm Graz, or I just don't see this one. I think this one is them having at it. And look, I'm not trying to... I don't intend any offence. Dominic, if you're watching this, well, stop it. You should be out practicing your shooting because as a striker, you don't get enough goals for Everton, let alone Arsenal. The uproar if we sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the answer to our problem in trying to win a title. I will eat my hat if he is a difference maker that comes in. And this is a sort of signing that a manager like Arteta does not want to make and get wrong. I'm ruling it out as much to manifest it not happening as anything else. But also, I just don't buy it. The other one I'm just not buying, by the way, is João Pedro from Brighton. And for completely different reasons. I happen to think he's an excellent player. For the last year or so, he's been playing on top of his game. Apparently, Liverpool are interested in him as well. I would certainly be delighted if we signed João Pedro. He's versatile, has an eye for goal. He's not prolific as such, but he's really young and fits that profile. As I said, can play on the left wing, can play up front through the middle and as an attacking midfielder. And, well, Brighton do produce these great players and are usually a selling club. But look, let's be honest. Good luck signing a player as important to Brighton as João Pedro in the January transfer window. Look what happened when we tried to sign Moses Caicedo from them. I know we got Leandro Trossard. That was a completely different situation. But Hursler has recently come out and said how they're working with Pedro to improve his first touch. There is still a high ceiling for Pedro. He's also not fully tested yet, and he's still probably not quite in that category of players you would expect to immediately come in and impact a title race. So if we are looking at a transfer for him, it's probably in the summer or even later. And so I just don't see it. Like, it's not as if Brighton are a selling club or need the money, is it? For that reason, I don't see João Pedro coming in. The other thing is that although this story was partially broken by Team Talk, they actually quoting Fichajes, and it's just been my experience that when it comes to transfers, that's not a news source that I would take all that seriously. They tend to just chuck a load of names at a wall and hope that one sticks. João Pedro, apparently available for around 54 million. Just doesn't make any sense at all to me. So I'm sad because I do think he is a great player and one that I really enjoy watching play for Brighton. I just don't see it happening. Now, the next story has easily the best headline of any of the stories I've been looking at today, and it's simply this. Arteta demands Nico Williams in January to rescue title challenge. Now, any of us who watched Nico Williams light up the European Championships with stunning performances that helped Spain to lift the trophy will be delighted at the idea of signing him. But this actually comes from a story that Charles Watts did a little while ago, talking about how Nico Williams had been our #1 transfer target in summer. But the player had his heart set on Barcelona, wasn't that fussed about moving, and in the end the transfer didn't happen. So, problematically for me, do we want to be going out and signing a player, however good he is, if we're not his first choice? He'd be making a difficult transition, and he's not in great form this season either. So, after that European Championships, his form has dipped a little bit. I just don't think Arteta would be demanding Nico Williams. He would apparently cost us at least 58 million in a release clause, which is not expensive, but the salary would probably be quite high as well. And are we in danger of falling in love with Nico Williams just on the back of one big tournament, which is something you should never do? I would like to see if he can regain his form before we sign him, because I think it would be a big risk. And if there's one thing Arsenal have shown themselves not to want to do, is we just don't take big risks on strikers. We don't sign strikers until we're 100% sure, and even then we don't seem to get it right. So I very much doubt that Arteta is jumping up and down demanding Nico Williams, or that he thinks that Nico Williams is that prime difference maker, particularly in light of the fact that the fourth player on my list, and the next two, by the way, I can't separate them. I want us to sign both of them. But the first of those two is Ademola Lookman. Born in Wandsworth to Nigerian parents, he has represented the England youth setup all the way to under-21s before opting to play for Nigeria. He started his career at Charlton after having spent 2 years there on youth terms. In his 45 appearances for Charlton, he scored 10 goals before securing a move to Everton for around about $7.5 million. That move did not work out. He joined them in 2017, stayed there till 2019, played 36 games for Everton, scored only 1 goal. And in that time, they loaned him out to RB Leipzig, which went considerably better. 11 appearances, 5 goals. They made the move permanent. He then played 11 times for Leipzig, but did not score. He was loaned out to Fulham, where he scored 4 goals in 34 appearances, and then Leicester, where he scored 6 in 26. Showed no signs of becoming one of Europe's elite players. But I'm telling you, right now, for me, he absolutely is. He signed for Atalanta in 2022. Atalanta are a club whose last major silverware was, I think, 1963, the Coppa Italia. They've never won Serie A, had never won European competition. They're currently on top of Serie A, and it's largely thanks to Ademola Lookman, who's on a goal a game, outscoring everyone in one of the hardest leagues to score in. This season is a continuation of last season's superstar performance in the Europa League final. The first European silverware that Atalanta have ever won, and up against Bayer Leverkusen, who were going for the immaculate season, hadn't been beaten all year, and Lookman's hat-trick was the difference. According to Gimme Sport, he might be available for as little as £25 million. Frankly, if it was twice that, he's easily worth it. I saw him play when Atalanta visited Napoli. Antonio Conte's side had not dropped a point at home, and Lookman scored a fantastic brace, both first-time finishes. He can score with either foot. He is an in-the-box predator. He's on the form of his life at the moment. As I said, he is the top scorer in one of the hardest leagues to score in, scoring a goal a game average. Watching him is exciting. Now, there is a reservation I have here, and that is that it's with players who it takes this long to find their form. He is 27 years old. He hasn't really shown any signs of being a top striker until he joined Atalanta. And it is possible that if you take him out of that scenario, perhaps he won't perform as well. It might be asking a great deal of him to come into the Arsenal team and make a difference. But when you watch him, as I will be doing later on tonight when Atalanta take on Real Madrid in a live watch-along, do join me, I think he's just the kind of player that stands out and is exciting. He was excellent when Atalanta beat Milan away. They've beaten Roma. They're on top of the table for good reason. And that's another problem. Is it really likely that a player is going to leave Atalanta in January when they have the chance of winning their first ever Serie A? I mean, he could be a cult hero at that club. And I think whatever happens, he'd at least want to wait till summer, wouldn't he? I could be wrong. Of course, his transfer fee is very low because his contract is coming up. And therefore, if he does decide to go, maybe we could make him an offer that's too good to refuse. I would love it if we signed Ademola Lookman. And fingers very definitely crossed. Let me know what you think about the likelihood of that, though. And the final one, possibly the most likely, and certainly one that I would be delighted with. And that is Jonathan David from Lille. He joined Lille in 2021 from Ghent, where he'd been scoring a goal every 2 games consistently. And in his first season, Lille were crowned champions of Ligue 1. He's a Canadian international who's prolific at international level as well, having scored 31 goals in 59 games. He consistently scores for Lille, but his contract comes up in summer and it's clear that he wants to make a move. Now, Arsenal aren't the only club interested in him. Also, Manchester United and Barcelona, although where they're getting the money from, I wouldn't know. The fact, though, is that he may be available cheaper than Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which makes it even more ridiculous. I started off talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'm so sorry I wasted your time. But if you watch Jonathan David play, he is exactly the kind of through-the-middle striker that we could definitely do with. How you'd fit Kai Havertz and him together, I don't know. But he definitely would get you goals. He's got goals every single season. No big injuries, great age. He's only 24 years old. This would be the kind of January transfer deal that could make a difference. Because at the moment, we're scoring 36% of our chances and Liverpool and Chelsea scoring 41% of theirs. That's a difference of 8 goals. If you want to think about what a difference 8 goals would have made to this season, imagine an extra goal in the Liverpool game, an extra goal in the Fulham game. Even that's just 4 points. This is the time where we have to look at how we get more goals. It's all very well saying we score them from all over the pitch. And when we're beating teams 4 and 5-0, fine. We have players who are happy to take shots when we're winning. But we need a clutch player. Somebody who's going to take chances. Somebody who's going to do what Jimenez did against us. 1 shot, 1 goal, finish. Jonathan David, I think... Look, nothing's ever a sure thing, right? Really, we want an Alexander Isak or a Victor Osimhen. But I think that Jonathan David is an absolute bargain at under 20 million. That he would definitely score goals for Arsenal. And my fingers are very well and truly crossed. Perhaps Santa can check his list, make sure we've all been good and bring us Jonathan David. Let me know in the comments how you feel, if there's a player I've missed. There are players I've missed. I haven't mentioned Matheus Cunha. There's a whole load of players I haven't mentioned, but these are the 5 that are most prominent now. Cunha, Red Eye Guna, has been saying how much he'd like to sign him for over a week. And in that time, the story came and went. It doesn't necessarily look any more likely to happen than it did a week ago. Of course, I'll keep you posted. Perhaps there's a player that I haven't mentioned that you dearly, desperately want to see at the club. I'm not sure about Gyökeres, to be honest with you. It now looks like he's going to go to Manchester United. There's obvious connections with Ruben Amorim. And in a recent interview, he talked about how his 2 role models were Ibrahimovic and Ronaldo, and he'd like to emulate them. I think that's a more natural fit for him if Manchester United got any money left after letting Dan Ashworth go. And of course, the last thing I want to say in this video is how is it going to affect the January transfer window that we don't have a sporting director? Do we need one? Of course, most of the big news today has surrounded our potential interest in Dan Ashworth, who was shockingly sacked by Manchester United just 5 months after he'd taken up position. And that's about as long as he spent on gardening leave waiting to take up the position. I am going to be talking about that in another video a bit later on today. So do make sure you're subscribed so you get notified when that comes in. And there is a live stream after live stream tonight. I'm going football crazy with 2 games being watched live. Do join me for what I hope will be a fun-filled festival of football. And until I see you there, be lucky and lots of love.